Welcome to Swords and Hammers, where truth comes clothed in tales, and the soul remembers what the mind forgets. The world is loud, but for these few minutes, it can wait. Settle in, and listen well. The snow and the hearth. The wind did not merely blow, it bit. It possessed teeth of ice that tore at the traveller's cloak, seeking the tender warmth of the flesh beneath. He stood alone in the granite throat of the mountain pass, his boots numb against the permafrost, surrounded by a whiteness so absolute it felt like blindness. This was the high country, where the air was thin and the mercy of the lowlands was a distant memory. He was a man who prided himself on preparation, a man of maps and logic. In the satchel at his hip, he carried charts drawn by the wisest geographers of the age. On his back, he bore a heavy pack of tools, ropes woven from his own good deeds, pickaxes of sharpened philosophy, and lanterns fueled by his own best intentions. He had paid handsomely for advice on how to cross the range to the father's house. One guide had told him to climb left, toward the peaks of moral excellence. Another had pointed right, toward the deep caves of mystical silence. He had tried them all. He had climbed until his fingernails bled, and meditated until his mind was a blank slate. Now, the sun was dying. The cold was moving into his marrow. This was not merely the discomfort of winter, it was the onset of the long sleep. His heart, usually so steady, hammered hard within his chest. He realized, with the terrible understanding that comes before the end, that he was not just lost. He was dead while he yet stood. His maps were ink and paper, and the mountain did not care about ink. His ropes were fraying under the weight of his own failures. The void before him was too wide for human leaping, and the cold was too deep for human fire. He sank to his knees, the snow embracing him like a shroud. The silence of the peaks was a judgment. It whispered that his existence was a vapor, his efforts a vanity, his destination a dream. "I have lost the way," he whispered, the words freezing on his cracked lips. "There is no way here that you can find," a voice answered, "for the snow covers all paths made by men." The traveller looked up, blinking against the stinging grit of the gale. Standing before him, unbothered by the wind, was a man wrapped in a cloak that seemed woven from the night and the dawn. He carried no lantern, yet the snow around him glowed with a pale, steady light. He did not look like a phantom or a spirit. He looked more solid than the granite cliffs, more real than the biting wind. He looked like the only living thing in a universe of dead stone. "Who are you?" the traveller gasped, shivering violently. "Are you another guide? Have you a better map? I have studied them all." The stranger reached down, his hand bare against the biting frost. "I have no map to give you. I do not point to the path, my friend. I am the way." The traveller hesitated. The wind shrieked, a chorus of 1,000 lies he had heard before. That there were many paths, that sincerity and self-sufficiency were enough, that if he worked harder, he could dig his own tunnel through the ice. But looking at the stranger, he saw the absurdity of those lies. A map is not a road, a description of food is not a meal, a theory of warmth is not a fire. He needed not to know about the way. He needed the way itself to carry him. "The chasm!" the traveller stammered, pointing a trembling finger toward the abyss that separated them from the distant heights. "It is too wide. No man can cross it. The bridge is gone." "True," the stranger said, his voice cutting through the gale like a sword. God and man are sundered by a distance no human foot can span. That is why I came down. I am the bridge, and I am the walker on the bridge. No one comes to the Father's house, to the warmth of the high hall, except through me. It was a hard word. Exclusive, narrow, absolute. It sounded almost cruel in the vastness of the storm. "Is there no other route?" the traveller asked, his pride flaring one last time, a small spark in the dark. "Must it be only you? What of the other peaks? What of the other guides?" "Look at the snow," the stranger commanded, and his voice held the weight of mountains. "Look at your frozen hands. Look at the bodies of those who sought to climb their own way. If there were another path, do you think I would have come into this storm to die for you?" The truth of it struck the traveller with the force of a hammer. A drowning man does not complain that there is only one rope. He grasps it. A man dying of thirst does not argue with the only spring of water. The exclusivity was not cruelty. It was the desperate necessity of rescue. "Then I will follow," the traveller said, trying to stand. But his pack, the heavy load of his past, his efforts, his accumulated theories, his justifications, weighed him down like a millstone. He slipped on the ice, falling hard. "You cannot carry that," the stranger said gently. "The path I break is narrow. There is room only for you and me. You must leave your merits, your arguments, and your pride here in the snow. They are dead weight." With fumbling, numb fingers, the traveller unbuckled the straps. It was terrifying to let go. That pack was his identity. It was the sum of his life's work. But the cold was winning. He cast the straps aside. The pack fell away, disappearing into a drift. He felt suddenly light, terrifyingly exposed, and entirely dependent. He reached out and took the stranger's hand. Unbelievable heat rushed from that grip into his frozen veins. It was not merely warmth. It was life. It was a thick, rich vitality that surged through his blood, waking nerves he thought dead, thawing the ice around his heart. He realized then that he had been merely existing for years, counting his heartbeats. But he had never truly lived until this moment. He had been simply existing, dead to the real world. Now, the life of the stranger became his own life. "Walk where I walk," the stranger commanded. "Place your feet in my footprints. The snow is deep, and the lies of this world are treacherous, but I am the truth." They began to move. The stranger did not just lead. He broke the trail. He walked into the teeth of the blizzard, his body shielding the traveller from the worst of the wind. Where the stranger stepped, the ice held. Where he walked, the way was firm. The traveller saw that the truth was not a philosophy to be debated, but a person to be trusted. The wind howled that they were fools, that reality itself was chaos, and that the cold was the only God. But the stranger's footprints were the refutation of the wind. Step by step, they crossed the impossible divide. The traveller stumbled, his old weakness returning, but the grip on his hand never loosened. He was not kept safe by his own grip on the stranger, but by the stranger's iron grip on him. He saw blood in the snow where the stranger walked, a crimson trail marking the only safe passage through the deathly white. How long they walked, he could not say. Time seemed to be different, or absent altogether. The night continued, and the labor was hard. He learned that the way was not easy, but it was sure. He learned that the truth was not always comfortable, but it was solid. He learned that the life was not his own, but a gift renewed with every breath. Slowly the wind died. The grey swirl of the storm began to thin, peeling back like a curtain. And then he saw it. He saw lights, not the cold, distant glitter of stars, but the warm, golden glow of windows. A great house stood upon the rock, vast and welcoming, with chimneys breathing wood smoke into the clearing air. It was a fortress of peace, a manor of ancient joy, built to withstand eternity. It smelled of roasting meat, of baked bread, of pine resin and old books. It smelled of home. "In my father's house," the stranger said, his voice warm with anticipation, "there are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I have prepared a place for you, and it is ready." The traveller looked at the massive doors of oak and iron. He knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his gut, that he could never have found this place alone. He could never have built a ladder to reach it. Nor could he have battered down these doors with his weak hands. He was, in truth, a beggar brought to a feast. Is it really for me?" the traveller asked, feeling the stains of the journey, the poverty of his empty hands. "I have brought nothing. I left my pack in the snow." "You brought yourself," the stranger smiled. His face was like the sun breaking through winter clouds. "That is all the Father ever wanted. The place is yours because you are with me, and where I am, there you may be also." The doors swung open. Warmth, heavy and golden, rushed out to meet them. Faces were there, kindred, family, a communion of saints waiting in the glow. The traveller stepped across the threshold. He stepped out of the howling night. And he stepped into the home he had been searching for since the day he was born. He turned to look back at the stranger, but he was no longer just the guide. He was the host. He was the door. He was the life of the house itself. The traveller understood then. The way was not a road to be left behind once the destination was reached. The truth was not a lesson to be learned and forgotten. The life was not a temporary fuel. Jesus Christ was all of it. He was the road, the journey, and the home. Outside, the wind scoured the empty pass, burying the discarded maps and broken tools of those who foolishly sought another way. But inside, the fire was lit, the table was set, and the troubled heart was finally, eternally, at rest. Jesus Christ is the way. Walk in him. Jesus Christ is the truth. Trust in him. Jesus Christ is the life. Live in him. Selah.